So today's treatment is going to be for more of a postural concern within the cervical and even the upper thoracic area here. We're going to be looking at a forward head posture. Maybe I'll kind of lump it in a little bit more with upper cross syndrome as well. So we're looking at an imbalance, very typical and a very typical imbalance that can be found for people who sit for prolonged periods of time, use electronics a lot. What we'll typically see is, cover my client here. See some rounding within the upper back. See some inhibition within the scapular muscles, which is going to cause them to become protracted, as well as a little bit even potentially winged. So usually when the medial border of the scapula and the inferior angle sort of flares upwards a little bit. Don't see that here right now, but inhibition within the scapular muscles as well as within the deep neck flexors. And then we'll see tightness within the cervical extensors, the suboccipital muscles, as well as the pectoral muscles. Fascial restrictions are almost a given. You might not see them too much within the upper body. See, we're just doing a quick little round the world fascial check here. You can actually see that for the most part, the fascia in our upper back actually isn't too bad. But given how the latissimus muscle also does internal rotation and extension of the shoulders, you'll probably notice some restrictions within there. Oftentimes you'll also just sort of note that the restrictions will also seem like they're sort of going towards both the sacrum as well as within the sternum. So a little bit of cross hand stretch just to get the lower back, the lats, the latissimus, or excuse me, the thoracolumbar fascia. Basically, if I'm going to be doing a treatment on almost anywhere within the spine, there's a good chance that I'm just going to do some kind of treatment to the entire spine. I'm going to keep my focus in the cervical spine, obviously, but all is somewhat of a interconnected road. So we'll do a little bit of treatment in the lower and mid back as well. Very minimal treatment in the lower back. But if I am going to be doing any treatment within this, let's say I only have about 25, like maybe 20 to 30 minutes to work on a client, I won't spend a ton of time, if any, within the lower back in that case, and I will keep my treatment to say, let's say, T7 and up. So just SIBOing a little bit of fascia here. How's it feel? Good. You can actually see pretty well here. She's got a couple of crooks in her neck here, which means that she maintains this forward head posture for quite some time. I'm doing something of a variant of, even just for lack of a fancy word, you can call it fascial spreading. Pinning it up at the base of the skull, and then just stretching from the top of the cervical spine down to about that down to about that T7 area there. Released pretty well there. Ooh, a little more restricted on this side. Maybe you can see, maybe you can't, but there's a big chunk of fascia right there. left side seems to be the more tense side. Left? Yeah, left. And so I'm going to start off a little bit lighter here, but I'm getting into a little bit of a, I guess you could call it a bit of an aggressive technique here. I'm just going to pick up the scapula. I'm going to bring it a little bit into retraction. Working my way to scooping up that the teres and lats here. Doing a little bit of muscle separation. Haven't gotten into any lotion yet. Switch sides here. Sometimes what I'll do is a little bit of a pin and stretch. So I'm going to pin a little bit within the teres, a little bit more just within the fascia, and I'm going to do a very slow pin and stretch. When I feel the resistance, I'm going to take a minute, just kind of stop for a little while. Got myself in a nice wide position here, so I can hold this position for a while. If you have a client who's considerably bigger than you, I'll sort of bring in my forearm to the equation a little bit more. If you have a stool, you can place your client's arm on the stool and just sort of glide the stool along with the client's arm on it. This might not be able to see terribly well because I was just in the way, but for educational purposes, here's what it looks like. Not too bad in there. Definitely need to get in a little bit of that though. So we'll just do a little bit of ischemic compression, catching some of that musculature along the lateral border of the scapula. Bring this arm towards your side here. Just catch a little bit more skin rolling. A little bit of effleurage to start things off. I'm going to move the camera here. Oops. There we go. And a little bit of C-scooping so we can get this area nice and warmed up. Still doing okay? Mm-hmm. This will be covered a little bit more within Module 7, but something that we can definitely do that's in real awesome service to postural conditions of the upper body is doing a little bit of stripping along the intercostals. You can catch some of the serratus anterior in there as well. The difference being is that I'm just using my thumb here, but you can also use your fingers. You can work crossbody and sort of scrape across like this. Difference being is that if you want to target serratus anterior, you'd be going on the surfaces of the ribs. So it's the upper 8 or 9 ribs, yeah? Whereas if you wanted to get in within the intercostals, you'd be doing within the intercostal space between the ribs. So we'll do a little bit of both. When you're first starting out, don't concern yourself too much with, oh, I can't keep on top of the ribs or I can't stay on top of that serratus muscle. I keep falling into the intercostals. Honestly, you're still going to be doing a lot of good for your client. So with these postural concerns, we have to see, is there any curvature, excessive curvature within the spine? So obviously excessive lordotic or kyphotic curvature, but there's also lateral curvature we need to be concerned with as well when people end up getting a bit of a case of functional scoliosis. Again, more of that's going to be covered in Module 7 when we get to the thoracolumbar spine, but worth an honorary mention right now. Even a fair amount of the shoulder work I'm doing is going to be more suited for Module 5. But they tie in very well with each other. So I'm basically just using stacked thumbs to strip along infraspinatus, then I can get into supraspinatus as well. If thumbs aren't your thing, what I'll also do is just sort of curl my fingers like so, apply some pressure on top, and then just strip out from medial to lateral like that. Pressure okay? You can also use loose fist. So by loose fist, obviously not a clenched fist, but it's like this, because then this will give you a little bit of cushion. If you dislike your client and want to see what malpractice looks like, you can try using your elbows within this area. No, I'm honestly kidding. I'd say only with like your largest muscles, like your heavyweight boxers kind of thing, are you actually going to be able to use elbows effectively within this area, but even still, I wouldn't attempt it. Yeah, we'll hit up the other side now. So to the side. Move our camera in. Rotator cuff muscles and serratus anterior, just not feeling it so much on this side. It's definitely a lot more left side of an issue here. Do a bit of cross body work, just some nice petrissage. You can do a little bit of transverse stripping of some of those erector spinae muscles while you're here. You got a little bit into the rhomboids, into the traps. Crossbody work is great because it gives you a little bit more leverage to do some of these techniques where you have to travel a little bit. You're traveling from spine to scapular kind of thing. It's not like I'm traveling from sacrum to cervical spine or anything like that, but a lot of alternative ways you can kind of get in that too. If you're feeling fancy, you can pick your client's scapula up. Typically only works super well with the hypermobile people, and putting the hand behind the back might just be an easier option, but I don't typically go with that. Most of my clients don't seem to tolerate it super well. Sometimes what I'll do if I really want to get in underneath that shoulder blade is I'll place my arm just at the front side of the shoulder. I can do a little bit of compression with either my thumb or some stacked fingers. And just do a little bit to sort of manipulate that scapula around. Do a little bit of range of motion in there. Nice, look at how quickly that loosened up. Just for good measure, we'll show a little bit of stripping along the thoracic spine there. And I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure. Doing okay? So checking in with your client's obviously important, but this right here is going to be the big tell. You're watching what the diaphragm's doing. She was holding her breath there for about 3 seconds. Now she's taking a nice big breath. This big stripping across there. Nice quick transition. Probably looks pretty familiar from the more basic massage that we did in Module 1. Strip along here, and then what I'll come back is I'll just use the inside of my elbow here, and that way I can glide back, not applying a ton of pressure, just catch myself back into position. Just moving out, sort of stripping at an oblique angle, hitting the lower trap fibers, catching in towards the mid traps, and we got a real awesome hyperemic effect going on here, which you just love to see. Let's catch a little bit of the lats again, just because it's not loosening up the way I want it to. Might be better suited with a little bit of shoulder joint play. But that's not going to be covered till next month. Ooh, that was good. Yeah, looks okay. Just the other side while we're at it. Don't think it'll need it as much. I stand corrected. Doing okay? It's quite a bit of pressure I'm using. Just a little bit of a quicker run across. It feels like it loosened up pretty good with just that. Oop, spoke too soon. Here's a good spot. Mid-back, there's a lot of things that overlap within this area. Even just within the musculature of the scapulothoracic joint. Super neat that it's not an actual joint. Not a true joint anyways. Alright, so find the scapula. We'll do some of that crossbody work we were doing here, but just, you know, obviously not crossbody. Ipsilaterally, if you want to be fancy about it, which I think I do. All right, I feel a good set of fibers here that I want to do some approximation to. Feels very stretched out. It responded okay to the compression, but I was using a lot of pressure. So I just do a little bit of, if I do a little bit of approximation, I can actually feel it wiggling underneath my underneath my thumbs right now. So try one technique out, doesn't work. Go ahead and try 2 or 3 more. Still doesn't work from there, because sometimes this middle area here between the shoulder blade and the thoracic spine just doesn't loosen up very well. That means you got to start addressing nearby structures. So get into the muscles at the lateral scapula, get into the shoulder, get into the pecs. reevaluate or reassess after your treatment. Note down what worked, what didn't. Yeah, things are looking good here. We'll just effleurage this out. Can we see it okay from here? Get into some of those suboccipitals here. So I'm trying to be cautious as to not to shove my client's head and face into the cradle. I'm just using my hand here to hold some of her hair back. You can accomplish the same with a hand towel. I'm just stripping along that occiput right now. I'm putting my thumb joints in a bit of a compromising position, so I'll bring my other hand on top of it just to provide some support. And we'll do a little ischemic compression. How you doing?
Okay.
Feel okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. Just stripping along the laminate groove. Just sort of using the intermediate knuckles there. A little bit stripping in and across. Oof. Levator scapula action there. Stack some fingers and we'll strip some of that posterior musculature. Yeah, nice. We've got a little bit lower on the right side. Do a little bit of muscle separation on the upper traps. And then I'll just sort of pull it down this way. Obviously, if I'm going to be doing something like I'm doing a stripping motion right now, so I'm in a lunge position facing towards my client's right shoulder. If I want to do a little bit of pulling, I'll just switch my position so I'm a little bit more in a reverse lunge. That way I can pull it down nice and easily. All right, I'll get my client flipped over and then we'll do a little bit of anterior work.